ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। ॐ श्रीचिन्मय सद्गुरवे नमः। योगेन चित्तस्य पदेन वाचां मनं शरीरस्य च वैद्यकेन योपाकरोत्तं प्रवरं मुनीनां पतञ्जलि प्राञ्जलिरान्नतोऽस्मि। हरि ओम। We have started with some of the important sutras of Patanjali Maharaj, and it is imperative on our part not to forget what we have learnt, so that the sambandham between what we have learnt earlier and what we are going to read further should never be lost. It is a sutra grantha, so there is a likelihood of we forgetting some fundamental concepts, and the link will be then distorted. So to recapitulate in very nutshell form, we can say that the world that we know can be very easily divided into two aspects. One is the inert jada, which is the creation, which is inert and jada, and then there is a chetana tattva or consciousness. So matter and consciousness, these are two distinct things that are there in this world. Consciousness is by nature knowledge. So consciousness, the nature of consciousness is knowledge, and the nature of prakruti or jada is inertness. So there is one who has only knowing part, the knowledge. There is one which has only the matter part or the jada, which can never know itself. So one who knows himself, Swayambhu, that is a Chetana Tattva, consciousness. The one which does not, cannot know itself is a Jada. So these two can never come together. In the sense, consciousness or Chetana is not interested in knowing anything because knowingness is its nature. So it has ability to know, but knowingness is its nature. So it is not interested in knowing anything in particular. It knows everything in general. I hope I'm making the concept of Chaitanya very clear. To know of something is not the criteria of consciousness. Knowingness is the criteria of consciousness. While Prakruti, howsoever it may try, can never know itself because it is a Jada in nature. Now, if the creation is divided into these two, things could have been very easy. There is something whose nature is knowingness and not interested in knowing anything. And there is something which can never know itself, which is Prakruti. So Chaitanya and Prakruti, consciousness and matter, they are clearly divisible as Chaya Atapo, the shadow and the sun. So this is very clear to understand. The issue comes when there is something intervening where consciousness is also borrowed by the Prakriti and they come together somehow, and that is where a Jiva is formed. Cohabitation, staying together of consciousness and the matter in one body, limited by certain area, is called Jiva. Now, here what happens is that consciousness which is not interested in knowing anything, its light is taken by this Jiva, put into the most reflecting material of that Prakriti or Jada, and all of a sudden the knowledge of everything begins. In the matter, when the consciousness is trapped in the entire body or entire shariram, entire limited matter, the area where consciousness is maximum utilized for reflection is called chitta or antakarana. The thinnest, lightest, and the purest part of the body, which has the ability to take the consciousness in and use its light, use its knowledge as a reflected knowledge, it's called antakarana. To give an example, sunlight, when it comes into the room, it lightens the wall. It lightens the wall. But if in the wall there is a mirror, then what happens? It lightens the mirror, and the mirror in turn reflects the light and lightens something. So all the wall is called matter. It has a light. That is how we come to know there is a matter. So all the light on the wall is matter. The light that is falling on the mirror is antakarana. So antakarana is the only part of the jiva which has ability to reflect the chaitanyam. Since it has ability to reflect the chaitanyam, it is the only part which can help us to see the source of the light or the sun. If you look at the wall, it is not transparent, so you can't see sun in it. But if you look at the mirror, there is a possibility that you can see, if the mirror is very clean and steady, you can see the sun through the mirror. Now imagine the sun is nothing else but the Brahman or Atma Tattva. Mirror is nothing else but the Antakarana, and the wall is nothing else but the Shariram or the rest of the Jada. So it is very essential to know that the only way to know the Atma Tattvam is to focus on the mirror, not on the wall. In simpler words, the way to have Brahma Jnana or Atma Jnana is to focus on mind or Antakarana, not on the body. And Patanjali Maharaj begins from the mind. So he says, forget everything else in this world. Forget the world, forget the body, forget the sharira, forget everything. Just focus on mind or antakarana. Why? Because that is the point where consciousness is maximum reflected. So the ability to reach the original source of light is in this mirror. So focus on that mirror, focus on that antakarana, which he calls chitta. So when he began his sutras, he said, Atha Yoga Anushasanam. Now I'm going to give you instructions about yoga. These are instructions. Why? If followed as a sadhana, you can see the sun. That means you can have Atma Jnanam. In which he says, Yogaschitta Vritti Nirodha. Now he has immediately entered into the discussion of Chitta or Antakarana or the reflecting mirror. In case of Chitta, we saw it is the main substratum. Chitta is the mirror, the main substratum which reflects the consciousness. When this Chitta is absolutely steady and clean, one can see or feel the sun that is reflecting, that is the consciousness. And the time when Chitta is able to perceive the consciousness, we are at the highest happiness called Anandam, because there is nothing in this world for us except the sun that is shining, which is the Chaitanya. But unfortunately, this Chaitanya, where it is reflected in this particular mirror or Antakarana, this Antakarana is never steady. Antakarana is the bhumi, ground. Chitta is the ground. Chitta is the lake of water, which is never steady. So whenever the Chitta is unsteady, it creates undulation or waves on it. These waves are called thoughts. Thoughts are called in Shastriya Paribhasha Vritti. So every time the Chitta is disturbed by something outside and something inside in the form of memory, then the substratum called bhumi or the lake of the water gets disturbed and the waves are formed. These waves are nothing else but the vrittis, which we commonly call as thought. These vrittis, when they are formed, then such a chitta cannot be called as a steady or calm, shant, pristine, clear chitta. It is called disturbed chitta. It is prakshobhita chitta. And that is why a prakshobhita chitta cannot show the sun. And whenever the darshanam of that sun or the chaitanyam is not possible, we suffer from anukula pratikula or sukha dukkha. So a very simple definition of our life is nothing else but chitta interacting with the inert material outside. When we interact with inert material outside, the chitta becomes prakshobhita, disturbed. And when the chitta gets disturbed, the thoughts are formed called vritti. And such a vritti brings us to the disturbed state of chitta, which is of 5 types, which we saw last time. The commonest of which is called moodha, the deluded one because of the tamoguna. Then we have from moodha we go to kshipta, the tossing one because of the rajoguna. From the kshipta we go to vikshipta, which is partially concentrated because the satoguna has started dominating, but the rajoguna is still there. From vikshipta it goes to ekagra, one-pointed. So there are less disturbances, or there is a disturbance of only one thing. It's called ekagra, ekam agre asit. And then beyond that it reaches a stage where no vrittis are formed, no disturbances are seen, and the chitta is absolutely standstill, pristine and pure. That is called niruddha avastha. Whenever that niruddha avastha is obtained, whenever that avastha, when no vrittis are formed, no thoughts are formed, and the substratum or the chittam is absolutely steady, it is called niruddha avastha. That niruddha avastha is yoga. So yoga chitta vritti nirodha. When such a chitta vritti nirodha is there, tada drushtu swarupe avasthanam. In that state, one sees one's own nature. One's own nature is Atman. We are all Atman, nothing else. Everything else is upadhi, adjunct, vesture, as Gurudev calls it, matter vesture. So all these matter vestures are removed and we get our own darshanam of our own Atma Tattvam. And what is the phalam of Atma Tattvam? Anandam. There is no desire, there is no pain, there is no suffering, there is nothing called Sukham, nothing called Dukkham. In that avastha, Satchit Ananda Swarupam becomes possible only when Chitta Vritti Nirodha is done and then Tada Drashtu Swarupe Avasthanam. But since this is not possible, this doesn't happen except in case of a perfect yogi, sa yogi yoginam varaha, then in a normal situation, what happens? Vritti sarupyam itaratra. At all other times means times when we are not at Nirodha Vritti, at all other times there are Vrittis everywhere. So we came up to this point in the last session. Vritti sarupyam itaratra. That means for a normal person like us, we are constantly basking in one or the other type of vritti. We saw that the thoughts or the vrittis create a disturbance in the chitta, and there are 5 types of disturbances we see. Those are called as chittavastha, pancha chittavastha. The disturbed chitta can be in 5 different states, and we saw those states as Mudha chitta, Vikshipta, Ekagra, and Niruddha. Now, we will see that when vrittis are already existing, that means we are not in Niruddha state, then what type of vrittis we get? Is it possible to classify them? Patanjali Maharaj says, yes. And that is why the next mantra, it states as Vrittaya Panchataya. There are 5 types of vrittis. Please understand, we are not confusing the states or avastha of chitta with 5 different vrittis. Vrittis are the waves. So vrittis are the waves on chitta. They are of 5 types. And the disturbance that they create, they are of also 5 types. So chitta avastha is the parinama and vritti is the cause. Vritti is the wave and chitta avastha is the disturbed lake. So these are 2 distinct things, not to be confused with each other. If vritti is there, chitta will be disturbed. Vritti will be the cause, chitta will be the disturbed avastha. Vrittis are of 5 types, disturbed chitta can be of 5 types. We have already seen disturbed avasthas of chitta. Now Patanjali Maharaj wants us to know about 5 different types of vrittis. The most important part is, in the beginning of Yoga Shastra, we said it is a practical science. Then why should I learn this theory? This theory is not theory, but it is actually a practical, because by knowing which vritti I am into, my entire exercise is to restrain the vrittis so that slowly I bring them down to multiple to many, many to few, few to one, and one to nil. In Shastriya Paribhasha, I want to keep my chitta, bring it down from the Mudha to Chitta, Chitta to Vikshipta, Vikshipta to Ekagra, and Ekagra to Niruddha. So it is a practical thing, it is not a theoretical thing. So there are 5 types of vrittis. Patanjali Maharaj says, Vrittayaha Panchatayaha. There are 5 types of vritti. And then immediately he adds Klishtaha, Aklishtaha. He makes a passing reference simultaneously as there are 5 types of vrittis. Few are klishta, few are aklishta. Now let us find out what is this klishta and aklishta. The klishta and aklishta has come from a dhatu called klish. The dhatu for klishta is klish. Now in normal parlance, in Hindi or in general when we talk, we call क्लिष्ट means difficult. When we say normally, ये काम कोई क्लिष्ट नहीं है, इतना क्लिष्ट नहीं है. So we are trying to indicate क्लिष्ट as difficult, but that is not the real meaning in Sanskrit. क्लिष्ट means क्लेशकारक. क्लेश means that which teases, irritates, causes pain. दुख प्राप्त करने वाला. That which gives us irritation, pain is called klesha. मुझे काफी क्लेश हुआ. The क्लिष्ट word is the adjective coming from klesha. It is past participle adjective of klesh. So that means these 5 types of vrittis, some of them create pain and some of them aklishta, relatively less painful, or those which are not painful. Now remember here, Patanjali Maharaj doesn't say Sukham and Dukkham. Why he says so? Because those are the reactions of the mind to the disturbances. The reaction of mind to the thought, to the vritti. It could be klishta or aklishta. So when we say that, I felt better. I felt better means there is absence of sadness. One is sadness or pain. That is felt. We say, yeah, I am in pain. But when you are not in pain, we don't say I am not in pain. We say I am better. मैं सुखी हूँ. So sukha is nothing else but a relative announcement of absence of pain. I hope I am making it clear. There is nothing called a new sukham. It is not that sukham originates. There are occasions when dukkham is absent. That state is called sukham by us, but it's not a sukham per se. So we are only having 2 states. One is dukkha and absence of dukkha. That being the case, if the dukkha is real, pain is real, yes. Sukham, is it real? No, sukham is not real. Only thing is pain now is not present. So the gap between the continuous stream of pain is called sukham. So sukham's existence is entirely dependent on whether the pain is there or not. That being the case, Patanjali Maharaj says, Vrittaya panchataya klishta aklishta. Aklishta means now the klesha is not there. So klesha or dukkham is there and dukkham is not there. These are the only 2 states. We call absence of dukkham as sukham. That is a completely different story. But there is nothing like sukham getting generated. Let us take another example. We have light, sunlight. Sunlight is the state, fine. What is darkness? When the sunlight is not there, there is darkness. Sunlight is produced. I can show the sunlight. But can I show the darkness? Whenever the sunlight is not there, darkness automatically comes. So absence of sunlight is darkness. Darkness per se is not produced. Similarly, sukham per se is not produced. It is the absence of dukkham. That being the case, the life is full of miseries is because misery is the nature of life. Some punctuations or partial points where this misery is absent is called as sukham bias. That is the reason why Patanjali Maharaj says, Vrittayah panchatayah klishta aklishta. There are 5 types of vrittis, 5 types of thoughts, either painful or not painful. Vrittayah panchatayah. Frankly speaking, in the deeper analysis of this particular vritti, it is also said that not all vrittis are pure klishta and pure aklishta. It is always a mix. Not all vrittis are pure klishta and pure aklishta. They are always in some kind of a mix. The predominance of klishta could be there, or predominance of aklishta could be there. For example, a wonderful food that we eat, a wonderful food that we eat gives us a klishta vritti, happiness, or we feel sukham. But there is a klishtata associated with it, like थोड़ा तीखा लग रहा है but अच्छा है. We are having aklishtata and klishtata together. We do not mind that aklishtata because aklishtata is dominating. Sukham is dominating, so we don't mind a little bit of dukkha. A lady delivers a baby, it is klishta, painful. But when the baby is seen by the mother, she feels happy. So klishta, aklishta always comes in the mixed form with predominance of either aklishta or klishta. So pain or absence of pain is the result of the vrittis that come in the chitta, which are of 5 different types. This is the meaning of the 5th mantra, vrittayaha panchatayaha klishtaha aklishtaha. Now from this point onwards, we are getting into the deeper aspect of Patanjali Yoga Shastra. Why we are calling it as a deeper aspect is Patanjali Yoga Shastra is a darshana. Again, we cannot forget that Shad Darshanas are there. In Shad Darshanas, one is Yoga Darshana. That is what we are trying to study. Now, Vedas, Brahma Sutra, Bhagavad Gita, Prasthanatrayam is the important treatise supposed to have been studied. Patanjali Yoga Sutra is other word when we describe, we said it is not something to be jumped upon as the first book of yoga because some amount of preparation is required to understand Patanjali Yoga Sutra. So when you are studying one darshana, it is presumed that you have studied other darshanas to a reasonable level. So the Nyaya darshan of Gautama Rishi, the Vaishya darshan of Kanada Rishi, the Sankhya of Kapila Rishi, the Purvamimamsa of Jaimini, the Uttarmimamsa of Badarayana Rishi is presumed to have been studied to a certain extent, and then we have come to Patanjali's Yoga Darshana. Because of that presumption, Patanjali Maharaj, when he gives further sutras, there are subjects that are transcending all the darshanas. And that is what is starting now. He is now listing the 5 vrittis. Satat Adhyayan is required while studying the darshana. Nothing of the past can be afforded to be forgotten. So we must be very clear in our mind about what is chitta, what is vritti, the substratum and the waves. Chitta, 5 types we already saw. Now Patanjali Maharaj is going to talk about 5 types of vrittis. And when we are talking about these vrittis, we have to also in our daily sadhana observe what type of chitta I am having right now, what type of vritti I am having right now, because then only we can learn the yoga. The breathing and the other accessories are equally important, but those are going to come later and they have their own role and value. But most important part is the goal is to reduce the number of vrittis and bring it to nil, viruddha avastha. So we must understand what are the types of vrittis. Patanjali Maharaj says there are 5. Which are those 5? Pramana, Viparyaya, Vikalpa, Nidra, Smrutayaha. Now we are the senior sadhak in darshana. Smriti has to be very powerful. Memory has to be put to the test. And the sutras have to be by-hearted. By-hearted not for appearing for an examination, but for the mananam. So vrittayaha panchatayaha klishta aklishta pramana viparyaya vikalpa nidra smrutayaha. In the beginning, these 5 words appear very bombastic, like a jargon, but they are very easy to understand and we have to understand them. The first vritti is called pramanam. What is pramana? we need to know what is pramana. Pramana means knowledge which is obtained with the help of a data. So you have a raw data. The raw data is converted into information. This sounds very close to the computer science. Those who have studied the beginning elementary steps of computer science, we have a data. That data, that whatever binary, whatever you call it, is put into information. Information then leads to the knowledge. We are all aware of it. So this process of getting a knowledge from true and acceptable data is called praman. There's a very specific thing involved into it. We are going to come to the different types of pramanas again. Right now, not to forget, we are seeing 5 types of vritti. Of the 5 types of the vritti, the first one is pramana. Pramana means knowledge obtained from true, verifiable and acceptable data is pramanam. That means in our day-to-day life, our chitta and takarana is involved into this pramanam. It is involved in 5 vrittis, out of which pramanam is one vritti. For example, the food is offered to you. What do you do? With the help of your eyes, you see the food, and then there is a smell, aroma also coming. So you take all that information, because now the data has come, it is verifiable, and then you come to the conclusion that this is my food and I am supposed to eat it. This is pramanajanya jnana, because pratyaksha, you saw the food in front of you. So this is food. How do you come to the conclusion? Because there is something kept in the dish in front of you. How do you come to the conclusion that this is food, this is my food, this I can have, this is good for my hunger? These conclusions are based on your knowledge that this is my food. So that means you're using pramanam. Pramanam you're using to know the knowledge. So in our daily life, an accountant takes in front of him the ledger, looks at those figures on the paper and uses pramanam to know that, oh, this is credit debit entry of the ledger. So pramanam. So that means our chitta is one way involved into pramanam always. We are paid for using the pramanam, that is a nokri, salary, that is a different thing. But basically from Shastra point of view, you are involving your chitta into a vritti called pramanam. Second is viparyaya. Viparyaya is the other part. Viparit, we all know the word viparit. Viparit means कुछ अजीब ही घट गया, जो चाहिए था वो नहीं हुआ. That's called viparita. Different than what is supposed to be there is called viparita. So viparyaya means wrong knowledge. Pramanam, true, verifiable, acceptable data leading to knowledge is called pramanam. Untrue, unacceptable data giving knowledge is called, because that is also knowledge. For example, I am walking in the desert and I saw water in front of me. Now my eyes have already seen the water. But this data which came is not true. It is not a true knowledge. So it becomes viparyaya. The methods used for wrong knowledge and right knowledge are same. Only thing is, one is right knowledge, one is wrong knowledge. One is verifiable knowledge, one is unverifiable knowledge. One is not true and one is true. So pramana viparyaya. If you really want to stretch this logic in a beautiful manner, then we all see the world and we say world is existing. And when people like Gurudev come in this world, they say, it is not existing. So whose knowledge is real knowledge? For us, world is pramanam. For the saintly people, world is viparyaya, false knowledge. So pramana, viparyaya. Third is vikalpa. Vikalpa, visheshena kalpayate iti vikalpa. Kalpayate means imagination. Kalpana is imagination. That means you are not using pramanam, you are not getting right or wrong knowledge, but you are having only fantasy. Let us take an example. There is a beautiful palace in the clouds. Cloud has no base, nothing can be built there, but you can still imagine a palace in the sky. We've been imagining it in our childhood, isn't it? There is a beautiful palace of God in the sky. Actually, there cannot be the palace in the sky because sky is nothing. Sky is what we perceive from here, but as we go up, there is no Gaganam, it is all Vistirna. That means this particular fantasy or imagination does not have any base. So, baseless imagination. But it is possible to imagine that. For example, the horn of the hare. Normally, a hare or a rabbit doesn't have a horn. But what is the harm in imagining it? You can imagine it. But even if you imagine it, it will not exist. It is asat. Flower of the sky, Kapushpa. There is no flower of the sky. Because sky is a rarefied thing. How can it give anything? But imagination can be done. So such imagination, because it is not a pramanam, it is not a viparya. So this is a third category called vikalpa. Vikalpa is nothing else but absurd imagination or fantasy. We are going to come to each of them because further sutras are talking about each of them. And there are beautiful explanations given by Swami Vivekananda, especially for the Vikalpa. We are going to see that a person of Vivekananda's Pratibha, how he develops this concept of Vikalpa is worth seeing. We will come to that. So, Pramana, Viparyaya, Vikalpa, and the fourth modification or vritti is called Nidra. Nidra is, we know, sleep, but when we say Nidra, you have to remember Nidra means sound dreamless sleep. Why dreamless? Because dream is also considered as almost similar to Jagruta Avastha because all the characters are still playing in the mind. What you see in the world, you see in the dream. Only thing is you close your eyes and see in a different world, and here you open your eyes and see in the real world. But in both cases, you are in the world. So only dreamless sound sleep is called Nidra. And the last is Smrutayaha, Smruti. Smruti is recollection. Recollection of any old thing, any Purva Sanskara. If you do not have any interaction with anything earlier, you cannot remember it. Or in other words, everything that is remembered presupposes an interaction with that particular thing in the past. And past means not only past of this birth, it could be of the previous birth. That is why many incidences we get where the small child remembers past birth, where he was born, etc. So that means this is again a smriti. These 5 things, which is pramana, viparyaya, vikalpa, nidra, and smriti. These are the 5 thoughts, categories of thoughts, categories of vritti that we are always in. There is no 6th vritti. In other words, what is this world doing? The entire world, I'm talking of jivas like us, what are they doing? They're in one of these 5. Now let us apply this to our own psyche and see. What am I doing in the entire day, night, 365 days until I die? What do I do? Presuming that I am not a yogi, I shall be doing what? Pramanam. Pramanam means deducing the knowledge on based on the things around me. Ye kitab hai, this is book, this is my food, this is my wife. These are all pramana jnana. Either the chitta is working on that. So my vritti is of jnanam. I'm driving. He went from the left side. This is coming from the right side. Pramana. So I'm always into this vritti. If not, I'm into viparyaya. Viparyaya. Oh, I thought it was like this, turned out to be something different. Viparyaya, false knowledge. And I saw that man, I went there and I just tapped him and I realized, oh, he was not my friend. Viparyaya, wrong knowledge, because from the backside he looked like him. When I went there, he was not the same one. So here again, so either I am doing pramana or we are doing viparyaya. If these both things I'm not doing, let us say I'm sitting in the office, people are thinking I'm working very hard. There is a computer in front of me. I'm looking at the computer like this, but I'm neither in the computer, not trying to read what is there. So that means I'm not in pramana vritti. I'm not trying to have the false knowledge also there, but I'm actually what I'm doing is I'm imagining. Imagining what? Imagining anything. Imagining anything. Presently, the virus is going on. Imagining the virus itself. What will happen to the virus if I become the person who invents the vaccine and all that? These are all have no basis, but imagination is not a problem. So I spend my time in imagination. Either pramanam, viparyaya, imagination. If that is not there, then I'm sleeping. And if I'm not doing these four, then I'm just recollecting my past. जब छोटे थे इतना बढ़िया था वो. I cannot tell you how beautiful my childhood was. We used to go to the river and we used to do this and we used to eat the tamarind and all that, basking in the glories of past, reminiscing the old memories is what we do. In fact, whenever 2, 3, 4 people meet, the first thing they do is हमारे ज़माने में. This हमारे ज़माने में business is smriti. That means our chitta is never steady. It keeps on dripping to, older days, there was a telephone operator's booth where she used to plug the cable from one hole and put it into the other hole, from other hole to this hole. This is how our mind or chitta works. Our chitta is plugging into there are 5 holes. These 5 holes are this pramana, viparyaya, vikalpa, nidra, smriti. We are putting plug from one, putting into other to one. This is what our life is all about. Howsoever glorified our life may be, the person may be president of America, he is having these 5 vrittis, nothing more than that. So whenever a yogi looks towards the world, he just looks at them as people who are embedded in vritti, 5 of them. The yogi is not in either of them. So when we speak to Gurudev or yogi, we say, Maharaj, आपको तकलीफ तो नहीं होगी? Frankly, he asks a question to himself, तकलीफ क्या होती है? वृत्ति होती है तकलीफ, क्लिष्ट अक्लिष्ट, वो तो मुझे है ही नहीं. Now you will understand why yogis are immune to the world. Sthita prajna lakshanam. Sthita prajna is what? No vritti. कर भला तो हो भला, आखिर दरवेश की सदा क्या है? जो करे उसका भी भला, जो न करे उसका भी भला. How this attitude comes? By subduing the vrittis that come on the chitta, which are of 5 types. That is the vrittaya panchataya klishta aklishta. I hope by now we know there are 5 chittavasthas. Mundakshipta, vikshipta, ekagra, niruddha. 5 we have seen. There are 5 vrittis or thoughts which we saw: pramana, viparyaya, vikalpa, nidra, smriti. Once this is clear, now we dive deep into each of these vrittis. Why dive deep? So that only when you know how thought modifications are happening, you can control the thoughts, not otherwise. As Gurudev says, you must know the enemy properly so that you can have counter strategy. Strategy of the enemy is to be understood to have counter strategy. This is Gurudeva's statement. So we must now dive into the depths of these 5 vrittis. So that is how the next mantra that comes is about the first vritti called pramana. The first vritti called pramana. Now, when we talk about the first vritti called pramana, we first should try to understand the basics. Why basic? Because here it is presumed that somebody who is reading this has already read other darshanas. Since we haven't, it is necessary for us to have some background for this pramana, jnana or pramana. In philosophy or in tattva jnana, there are 2 aspects. I'm talking something very, very, very basic and fundamental. In philosophy or Tattva-Gyan, there are two fundamental aspects. One is things around us, vastu, things around us. Each thing around me is a vastu. Each thing around me is a vastu. And then there is a process by which I know that vastu. Let us take example, a book. A book is a vastu. And how do I come to the conclusion that it is a book? There is a process involved, isn't it? So that means there is an object and there's a process of knowledge of getting that object. When I'm studying the object, for example, I want to know the real nature of things that are around me. What is the real nature of the planet, the earth, the sun, the stone, the clay? When we want to see the exact nature of the vastu, that means I'm studying the vastu, when it is called as Sad Vastu Mimamsa. Sad Vastu Mimamsa. Vastu means things around me. They are also called Prameya. Things around me are called Prameya. Prameya means, simple words, things around. And the science of studying the real nature of this, real nature. Obvious nature, we know it is a stone. That is not real nature. Studying the real nature of the things around me is called Sadvastu Mimamsa. In English, it is called as ontology or metaphysics. Ontology or metaphysics. Metaphysics is a word coined by Aristotle. And the beauty is that there is a funny story for this metaphysics word. It is called metaphysics because the book that Aristotle was reading or writing on this particular Sadvastu Mimamsa was kept after the book of physics. So it is called metaphysics. It has nothing to do with physics. So Sadvastu Mimamsa. Once again, in philosophy, you study the things around. When you want to study the things around you, which are called vastu or prameya, you want to know the real nature of those things. That science is called Sadvastu Mimamsa or metaphysics or ontology. And when we want to know how to know the nature of things, for which what are the methods applied? To know the nature of things, methods have to be applied. For example, to call a book, I must apply some method. What is my method? It is a book because my eyes can see it. Pratyaksha pramana. It is in front of me. Suppose somebody says America. I have not traveled to America. But I heard from somebody. That means I took the pramanam of somebody else's word. So that is called Shabda Pramana. There is a smoke coming from the kitchen. I hope nothing is on fire. You have not seen the fire, but you concluded that there is a fire because you saw smoke. Anumana Pramana. So that means there are methods of knowing the thing. Those methods of knowing, or the means or methods applied to know the prameya is called pramana. The methods applied to know the prameya or vastu is called pramana. And that also, there is a science for this pramana also. And the science of that pramana is called Sadvastu Jnana Prakriya, is called epistemology. It is called epistemology or Pramana Shastra. I hope in the wake of clarification, I am not confused. So let me repeat again. The entire study in philosophy, Tattva-Jnana, is of things around you and method of studying the things. When things around you are only studied to know the real nature of the things, it is called Sadvastu Mimamsa Shastra or Prameya Shastra. It is in English called metaphysics or ontology. The methodology adopted to study such vastu is called Pramana Shastra. And this Pramana Shastra is called epistemology in English. Now, once these two things are clear, then what is the real nature of Jiva? We are talking about metaphysics. Is this Shariram true or Atma true? That means we are talking about the thing. And the method applied, that in Pratyaksha I can see the Sharira, but Pratyaksha I can't see Atma. So Atma is not existing. That means I'm using Pramana to come to the conclusion whether Atma exists or not. Why? I'm using Pramana. So that is epistemology. Now the question is, how many types of Pramanas are there? How many types of Pramanas are there? Pramanas there for what? To know the Prameya or the Vastu. In other words, in how many ways you can assess that something is existing. I'm putting it in very simple words. How many ways are there in which you can assess how the thing is existing? For example, you ask anybody that how do you know that you have a wife? He will come and say, I saw her, I see her every day. What is there? That means he's talking about Pratyaksha Pramana. With my own eyes. Then somebody comes and says that, how do you know that the person is very corrupt? The accountant says, I saw the accounts. And that is how I concluded he must be corrupt. Now, what is written in the book? The book is not writing that so-and-so is corrupt. He saw some figures here and there and he concluded that there is some fraud and that fraud is done by him, so he is corrupt. Anumana. Pratyaksha Anumana. Or somebody saw the fire, smoke somewhere and he concluded there is a fire. Conclusion of a known thing by looking at a known thing is called Anumana. Pratyaksha is Prati Aksha, direct in front of the eyes. Anumana is inference. Inference is Anumana. Then there is a third category. There is the third category, which is called Upamana. Upamana means by using the similarity of two things. For example, if I say a name of a new animal, and I've never seen that animal, then I'm told that, sir, that animal is exactly like cow. थोड़ा सा वो क्या है, छोटा रहता है, but है तो, let us say somebody has not seen tiger, but has seen cat. Then what will the person say? Oh, tiger is same like cat, but this is small and that is big. So he got a knowledge. When he actually sees a tiger, he comes to know that this must be tiger. Now, how did he know that this must be tiger? No Pratyaksha Praman, because he's seeing it for the first time. No Anumana, because there's no confusion. This is called Upamana, because he was given the knowledge that he is like cat. So he extrapolated that and concluded. So this is considered as a separate Pramana called Upamana. So this is Pratyaksha, Anumana, Upamana. Then there is a Pramana called Shabda Pramana. Shabda Pramana means simply believe in somebody's words. Simply believe in somebody's word. Somebody comes and tells you, मैं बता रहा हूँ, ये शादी कर लो इसके साथ, बहुत अच्छी लड़की है. You have not seen, you have not tasted, and we most of us have not, but we believe in what the elders say and we marry. What is that? It is Shabda Praman. Whether it is wrong or right, we come to know later on. But the fact is that we believed in what? We have these days it's different, but earlier even we were never seeing the would-be bride also. Only after marriage you will see the face of your wife. So on whom you believed? You believed in the words of somebody. That is called as Shabda Praman. Gurudeva says, come to me, I will help you. And we all go to Gurudeva. On what basis? Shabda Praman. Then the fifth Praman is called Arthapatti. Presumption. Arthapatti. Very easy to remember. Arthapatti means it is by presumption you come to that conclusion. I'll give a small example and it will be very clear. There is a boy who did not appear for the examination and stood first in the university. How do you come to know this? He did not appear and he stood first in the university. It is not possible, but it has happened. Then what do you presume? he must be the minister's son. Didn't you come to the conclusion? We came to the conclusion by presuming that this is possible only if his minister's son, maybe in Bihar or any other state of India. This is called arthapatti. This is also a way of getting knowledge, pramana. So, pratyaksha, anumana, upamana, shabda, and arthapatti. These are 5. And there is a 6th pramana, which is called anupalabdhi. Anupalabdhi, that means not present. Now, this is something very peculiar. Let us say in front of all of us now, there is no clay pot. We don't have clay pot now. In our house also, we don't have clay pot because it is there in the villages. But we have a knowledge of clay pot, but the clay pot is right now not in front of us. But is it not that we have a knowledge that the clay pot is not existing here? Absence of anything is also a knowledge. Clay pot is not in front of me is also a knowledge. Clay pot is in front of me, pratyaksha jnana. Clay pot is not in front of me. That means anupalabdhi is also a type of knowledge. Absence of something is also called knowledge. So these are 6 different types of pramanas. We need to know that because now we are the student of darshana. Pratyaksha, pramana, anumana, upamana, arthapatti, anupalabdhi. 6 pramanas are there. Why these 6 pramanas are told? Because each darshana believes in certain number of pramanas. Each darshana believes in certain number of pramanas. For example, the first Nastik darshan called Charvak. You've all heard of this name Charvak. He believes only in one pramana, pratyaksha. Whatever is in front of your eyes is true, rest everything is false. What about Atman? False. Why? I can't see it. Anything that I can't have pratyaksha jnana is all false. Only pratyaksha jnana is the truth. That is one pramana only, Charvak. If you come to Vaisheshika, they say only 2 pramana, pratyaksha and anumana. They don't believe in any other pramana. Either you have inferential knowledge or direct knowledge. No other pramanas they believe in. If you come to Sankhya, Yoga, which we are studying now, Dvaita, Vishishtadvaita, these darshanas, they believe in Pratyaksha, Anuman and Shabda. So Patanjali Maharaja's pramana, as Yoga Shastra, it believes only in 3 pramanas, Pratyaksha, Anumana, Shabda. Only 3. Nyaya Darshan believes in Pratyaksha, Anumana, Shabda and Upamana, 4 pramanas. Purva Mimamsa, Jaiminis Purva Mimamsa believes in 5 pramanas. Pratyaksha, Anumana, Upamana, Shabda and Arthapatti. And Advaita, our Advaita or the Uttara Mimamsa believes in 6 pramanas. All the 6. Pratyaksha, Anumana, Upamana, Arthapatti, Shabda and Anupalabdhi. So some believe in 1, some in 2, some in 3, some in 5, some in 6. This is to give a background of what is Pramana Shastra epistemology, what are different types of pramanas, which darshan believes in which pramanas, and then with this backdrop, then it becomes easier to understand the 7th sutra of Patanjali Maharaj, which says, Pratyaksha Anumana Agamaha Pramanani. Agama means Shabda. Pratyaksha Anumana Agamaha Pramanani. Because Yoga Shastra believes only in 3 pramanas. That is how the 7th mantra starts. So today what we have seen is, we recapitulated 5 different avasthas of Chitta. From there we moved towards the 5 different types of vrittis, which Patanjali Maharaj says, Vrittayaha, Panchatayaha, Klishtaha, Aklishtaha. There are 5 types of vrittis, painful and not so painful. Those 5 are Pramana, Viparyaya, Vikalpa, Nidra, Smrutayaha. 5 are there. of which pramanas, what is pramana, what is prameya, what is sad vastu jnana shastra or metaphysics or ontology, and what is pramana shastra or epistemology. That is what we saw. We saw 6 types of pramanas that are existing. We also saw which darshana has how many pramanas, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we came back to the 7th sutra, which is Pratyaksha Anumana Agamaha Pramanani, which we are going to study in detail later on. Some amount of study or background exercise is required depending upon how much is one's reading, so that a complete understanding of Yoga Sutras are there in the mind. Each of that has a bearing on sadhana, because if you understand properly the vrittis that we are having, then only we can annihilate the vrittis, reduce the number of vrittis, and reduction in the number of vrittis is going closer to the God. Going closer to the God is basking into the light of the bliss. Initially, it will be a bliss, like in a very wintry condition, a small blow of warm air pleases us. And then slowly the warm air increases and the entire pain of winter is gone, because the entire blanket comes to us. Similarly, the vrittis, as they keep on reducing, the blow of warm air soothing us from the wintry pain of this world goes down. That is why studying the vrittis is very important. How to control these vrittis? What are the methods of controlling the vrittis through changes in the bodies, etc.? What is the role of pranayama? This is all the subject of what is going to come down the line. But the fundamentals have to be very, very clear, so that when we reach to that stage, we have no confusion in the mind. So this is the end of 6th sutra, and we shall see the 7th sutra next time. Hari Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Mudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.
Sanjay ji, Hari Om, thank you so much, especially also for summarizing. I think it helps us understand better. I'll just ask if any other sadhaks have questions. I have a couple of clarifications.
Yes.
While other people are muting, one is I am seeing Anuman being extended to Ardhapati. So I think by a lot, but in some ways, the presumption is also inference. So the fine difference, if any, to across the darshanas, while they accept different kind of pramana, is the definition consistent?
For you, the definition is consistent because pramana is the methodology adopted to know the prameya. So there is no confusion about the definition of pramana. Methodology adopted to know the prameya or the vastu is pramana, which is common to all of them. The difference why some of them call for 3 and some of them call for 6 is because in those things like upamana and anumana, they are so close to each other that only Nayayikas, people who believe in the Nyaya Darshana, they have hair split it and made it separate into upamana. Actually, upamana means what? You saw something, a cat, extrapolated it to, so the moment you extrapolate, there is an anumana involved into it. So that is why other darshanas do not consider upamana as a separate thing, but consider it as a part of anumana. But Nayayikas are very, very strict in interpretation. So subtlety of differences is the way one interprets it, whether you will give it an independent established existence or not. For example, Anupalabdhi, which the Advaita believes in, or the Uttar Mimamsa believes in, a thing which is not present is also a knowledge. Now, when you have a pratyaksha jnana, that presumes that when the pratyaksha is not there, it is absent. So why should we have a separate pramana for that? So these objections and vada vivada are there. But again, each darshana, their founding gurus, they're founding the reason why. Let us take example, then we'll realize why they are so keen on having these differences. The Buddhist people say that everything in this world is transitory. So everything being transitory, keep discarding it, keep discarding, keep discarding. Then the question remains, what remains? They say void, shunya. Now shunya is anupalabdhi or upalabdhi? Think. When nothing is present, absence is present. When nothing is present, is absence present or nothing is present? It's more of a hair splitting thing, but it has importance in this. So the experience that a person who gets nirvana in Buddhism is of what nature? Void nature. Void means what? Is it an experience at all? If there is void, can it be called as an experience? Because it is not a positive thing. Only a positive thing can be called as experience. So anupalabdhi, can it be a knowledge? Upalabdhi is knowledge, agreed. Pratyaksha jnana. Absence, would it be a knowledge? Sunlight is light, agreed. But does darkness have any existence? Absence of sunlight, presence of sunlight. Where is darkness? But some people say, no, darkness exists. Why? Because we have experienced darkness also. So in darkness, do we experience darkness or do we experience lack of sunlight? All wordy duets. That being the reason, pramanas depending upon each Rishi, because he's going to use these pramanas later on into the extrapolation and the discussions that he'll be doing about Brahma Sutra and Vedas and interfering Vedas. So each of them have their own methods of doing it. That being the reason, the Adharyu means the original sages, the seers, the Bhashyakars, they all believe in their gurus and then they follow the tradition. So that is why Uttar Mimamsa follows all 6 darshanas, Charvak follows only 1 darshana, Vaisheshika follow only 2 darshanas, Yoga and Nyaya they follow, Yoga and Sankhya they follow 3 darshanas, Nyaya follows 4 darshanas, Purva Mimamsa follows 5 darshanas. So because Jaimini Rishi wanted to follow 5 because he used one of them for his own interpretation of Jaimini Sutras. So that is the difference. From our point of view, different pramanas do have their existence, depends upon which darshana you are studying. Present darshana that we are studying agrees for 3. So discussion will be only focused on 3 because yogas do not believe into more than 3.
Hariom, thank you.
Hariom Sanjay, sorry that you are saying that the cat, when the cat is seen, it is extrapolated. Can you continue that upamana? I didn't get that properly.
Somebody not seen a particular thing. Suppose he has not seen a tiger and the tiger comes in front of him. Then he will not have a knowledge of what this animal is. But he has seen the animal. Earlier he has not seen it. So that means, and he cannot have pratyaksha jnanam. So what way he can get the knowledge? One of the way of getting knowledge is if somebody has told him that there is an animal called tiger which looks like cat. Only thing is cat is small, make it big, it will become a tiger. Now here carrying that knowledge with him, he applied it now and said, oh, there is a tiger. So now this knowledge, where did he get it from? Not pratyaksha, not anumana, because for anumana you have to have a chinna, it is called linga. That means, for example, if there is smoke, then there is fire. So smoke has to be there, then only he can conclude there is fire. When this tiger came in front, he had no linga, no chinna, no mark. He only had a vague idea that it resembles cat. So cat was not a chinnam. So that being the reason they say it is upamana, comparative analogy, upamana. So they took it as a separate pramana shastra. But people who criticize this upamana as a pramana, they say that look, when he saw that tiger, did he not in his mind took cat and then said it is tiger? That means he inferred from the cat. And while Nayayik people say, no, it is not an inference. It's a matter of debate. But Upamana means comparative analogy to come to the conclusion of the knowledge. And I'll give you an example of why these pramanas are important. How does Atma look like? Can you see it with Pratyaksha Pramana? No. Why? Atma is not something which is obtainable or seeable through the Indriya, so he is not Pratyaksha. Can you infer Atma, that something come in front of you? Oh, it is like this, so this must be Atma. No, because for Atma there is no chinha, so inference cannot work. What about Upamana? Atma is exactly very large compared to like a small sphere. No, so Upamana cannot work. Can it be Arthapatti presumption? No, that doesn't work. Then what about the Anupalabdhi? Absence? No, but he is present, Satchit Ananda, so Anupalabdhi doesn't work. So then how is it that I am going to get the Atma? The only Pramana that remains is Shabda Pramana. Shabda means somebody who has seen the Atma, realized the Atman, like Gurudeva, he comes and tells us, please follow. There is an Atman, and we follow him. Shraddha. That is called Shabda, Agama Pramana. That is how these Pramanas are later on used for ultimate aim of Tattva Jnana is Tattvam Jnana. That you are. That is the Jnana we intend to have. That is why Pramanas. It's not just a word play. So it does appear theoretical, but it has got a lot of practical implications for you.
Hari Om, thank you.
Hari Om, Sanjay ji. Sanjay ji, my question is that why is the elimination of vrittis important?
This is important because it is the vritti that brings klishtata and aklishtata. That means vritti or thought is the precursor of pain and misery. So if thought is causing pain and misery, which we all know because we are thinking people, constantly we have thoughts in our mind. And what has thoughts given us so far? Maybe some small islands of happiness. But overall, if you ask anybody that how is life, immediately they say life sucks. There's a modern word called life sucks. Midlife blues. All these are nothing else. The simple underlying tone for everybody's life is badi takleef ho rahi zindagi hai. Nobody says that, wow, what a life. Nobody says that. Whether it is because of external karuna or internal marona, whatever it is. But the fact is we are constantly unhappy. Now, if we are constantly unhappy, then we must be doing something that is making us unhappy. Now, what we do is only the front projection. If you go back at the front on the screen, if you go back to the projection screen, the projector, we find that everything is projected from the mind or the antakarna. And the projection of the mind or antakarna itself is thought. Now, what will happen if nothing is projected? When nothing is projected, naturally all the pain will be totally absent. And when the pain is totally absent, what will be the situation? That will be a situation we will be basking into what? The glory of Anandam. Why glory of Anandam? The reason being, when there is complete absence of sorrow. Let us take sound dreamless sleep. What happens in that sleep? What are you experiencing? Nothing. Still nothing gives you so much of pleasure when we wake up. Kya neend thi? In sleep, you are not experiencing anything at all. But on waking up, you say, "Itna maza aaya." Kahan se aaya maza? Why you felt so good after the sleep in which you did not know anything? That goodness is nothing else but the nature of Atman. So this so-called small glimpses of Atman can give you so much of pleasure, which you really crave for. Then imagine the entire Atman is available to you. What storehouse, warehouse, what a colossal amount of happiness will be with you. And then, is it all a theoretical thing? There are rishis who are basking in this kind of happiness. That is why when we look at Gurudeva, dukha naam ki koi cheez hi nahi. Gurudeva was never dejected, never unhappy, and working perhaps million times more than us. with most odds and obstacles, in the same world where we stay, without a job, without a wife to look after him, without a person who could tell him that tomorrow's food is guaranteed. Nothing was guaranteed, but he was basking. How did this happen? The technique for that is vrittis were absent. So the mind was there, a mirror was there, clean and sparkling, but it was only reflecting the sun. The Lord was emanating through the body, nothing else was emanating. That is why vrittis have to be, and you can see the practical example also. आज मैं शांत बैठा था, I was sitting very quietly and feeling happy. Today I saw a beautiful thing. I had gone to Niagara and I saw the falls and I felt so good. Is it Niagara that felt you good, or because you were seeing only Niagara, ekagrata, all other vrittis were absent, that is why you felt good? It is because the vrittis were less, you felt good. Extreme commotion gives you extreme unhappiness. Why? Multiple vrittis. When you are shant, when you're seeing a movie, you are interested in the plot of the movie, ekagrata, it gives happiness. You feel picture बहुत अच्छी थी, picture अच्छी नहीं थी साहब, आप अच्छे थे, you were concentrating. Is it not that we have daily examples of how vrittis make us happy? Lesser the vritti, happier I am. The person who has fallen in love, he doesn't see anything except his beloved everywhere. The Majnu and the Laila. Only Laila everywhere. Then what happened? People were throwing thrones at him, but he was happy. Why? Ekagrata. Laila was not giving the happiness. Ekagrata was giving happiness. The devotion of a pativrata to the pati is not the pati that is giving the happiness. One single-minded focus, one single-minded vritti, less number of vrittis, only one vritti. When we do Dev Puja, we feel good. Why good? Because we are focusing on one God. We call it a God, give it some shape, but whole attempt is to focus on one vritti. So at the root of everything, fundamentally, these are the vrittis. That is why Patanjali Maharaj, like an arrow, has exactly hit at the bullseye by giving the Patanjali Yoga Sutra.